welcome to the April 2023 episode of Marguerite's monthly live show, Co-Creating the New Earth with the Subtle Realms and Fae. This month we are doing our cannabis oracle on the realm of the Fae specifically. So we're really excited to tune in there. My name is Courtney Harper. I am the Priestess of Sacred Administration here at Seven Sisters Mystery School, and I am hosting today as Marguerite is already deep in ceremony with Sacred Santa Maria, also known as Lady Cannabis. We are honored to have you with us here. Few notes before we get started here. First of all, please be sure to like this video and subscribe to Marguerite's channel if you haven't done that already. Share this video with anyone you feel might benefit from what we have to share today. And that really helps the channel here. So we appreciate that very much. Just be sure to comment below with your questions as we're going along. And bear in mind that these are not personal readings. We will be selecting questions that are relevant to the collective rather than checking in with individual circumstances. For that type of support, Marguerite is available for one-on-one sessions that you can find more about at sevensistersmysteryschool.com. But for now, let's go ahead and get started. So I'm just wondering if the fairies have a general message for us or greeting to start us off with.
All right. Yes. Thank you, Courtney. Thank you also, Connie Viveros, who is our sacred space holder out there with us in the ceremonial astral plane. Thank you so much, Connie. So what I'd like to do first is just set some sacred space with everyone who's listening, whenever that may be. And so we just want to feel our connection to Mother Earth, really to the center of Mother Earth, and feel our connection to Mother Cosmos. And we're just calling golden light around all of us as protection. And I'm now formally calling in the beings known as the Fae, the Fairies, the She, the many, many dimensions and groupings and races and nations of these beings, the Leprechauns, the Elves, the Pixies, the Harpies, the Brownies, there are many, many more, and we're all calling them in our heart. We're inviting them, the Tuatha-De-Danann, the many races known as these nature allies, these allies of Mother Earth, the subtle beings. To us feel subtle, but are actually very strong, very strong. So we're inviting them to be with us individually and collectively. We're honoring all the plants in our house as houses as manifestations, all the plants and the nature around us as manifestations into the three-dimensional world of these fairy beings. Look just on the other side of an azalea bush and see what they look like on the interior dimensions. So I'm going to just connect in more with these beings. And before we started, I had a pretty intense energy coming into my space that I had to call protection around, that I couldn't tell if it was a dwarf or if it was something else concealed as a dwarf. So I had to send that away. But in that communication, the dwarves, I felt a sense that the dwarves were angry because they are perceived as small, and therefore anything that has smallness in our world is subtly denigrated, and they are saying that they really don't appreciate that, and that it's really up to humans to start looking at these races of fairies that we know of, have heard of, have seen images of, some authentic, some distorted, we want to understand, sense into the nature of each one and hold each one as sacred. So this is a good first lesson for anybody working or playing with the realm of the Fae, as we're calling it here today. Tune into the energies of any particular type of being and find out more about who they really are, because they've all been given silly images in our world. And that is a very great travesty. It's a kind of a humiliation of these beings on top of the damage that we've already done to the ecosystems that allow them to exist on the fifth and higher dimensions. And so that being forests and, pure places of Mother Earth, when they get decimated, they decimate that domain on the fifth and higher dimension by which the Fae can occupy. So because they are actually protector beings. And so there's a lot of Swiss cheese holes all over the planet of their grids, which make the grid less strong. Okay, the grid, it's paradoxical because it's a net, but it's all one thing at the same time. It's like all connected. So a net is not connected, but so anyway, these nets and grids and things. So we've when we decimate nature, we decimate a pocket of fairy grid, meaning the protector beings, the protector allies. All right. And so as that decimation started to happen, they became less and less strongly felt, less and less strongly interfacing with the third dimension, and more disparaged, right? Till today, they're thought of as imaginational, not even imagination, because we know imagination is real, but you mean nothingness, that they're nothingness. So that's a veil that has been put over them, by certain unfriendly forces who, there was all sorts of vying for planet Earth by lots of different beings who came in and they were like, well, bah, I want it. No, I want it. No, I want it. No, I want it. I want it this way. I want it that way. I want it this way. I want it that way. And so they've all been fighting. And, under that scenario, the angelics, like the Fae, are the first to go because they don't fight, right? They set their energies in a different way. So we've had these negative energies that have just poked holes in the fairy grid. They don't like fairies. They're not that happy about fairies. So I'm just going to take that in for a minute.
And so where does their strength come from? What is the strength of these subtle beings?
Yeah. Okay, great. And I'm going to bring in a dragon. I'm going to bring in a dragon to my own body and a dragon into our collective for protection and elevation. So what is it that they draw their strength on? Well, they are of the light. And there's strength in that. They are of the light. So light and dark have been vying for a very long time as to who is stronger. And so that's what this is. It's like it's a battle of like light and darkness, literally. It sounds so cliche, but that's exactly what I'm seeing. And so the fairies are vibrations of the angelics, yes, and the she are sort of our more fuller understanding of them, because the she to us seem more humanoid and the fairies to us seem more plant-like or other. But when we think of she, we think of, the tall elves of Tolkien and that type of thing. And so we can identify and appreciate them more. But they're a type of angelic that is here to have created an organic matter mesh of protection on and around this planet. They are that. And so that's the main thing I'm seeing, is that they're part of this mesh. But I know they have many other types of personality characteristics. But so let's look at this strength of theirs of being of the light. Well, we are all of the light. So they, on that level, everything's our brother and sister, and that's how the Native Americans understood everything to be a brother and a sister to them.
Right, and it's almost a sense of a mirror that we can learn from. They've walked this path before. They stand in that strength, and so they can teach us. Possibly how.
Yeah, they can, because they're really like pure versions of ourselves, of the human.
Wow.
Okay, just like I was using cannabis and had to clear her before starting to get to the pure version of her. Okay, so they're like the pure versions of us after all of the tattooing, and like energetically, the genetic manipulation and everything went on. And so I'm trying to see like the order of events, because it feels important to understand the she aspect of it all. It's like there's a lot of information about beings coming in, going into the earth of warfare, and it really was a horrendous warfare. I mean, the Lord of the Rings is right.
Wow.
Like pretty much every single thing that's in there.
Wow.
That's really what happened. And so
very interesting.
Let's just tune into Galadriel.
Let's, please.
This is the warrior fairy. And it's kind of contrary to their nature that they had to get that way. It was horrible. Really horrible. Warfare is not their nature, and yet they truly would have faced annihilation if they didn't. They truly would have.
Wow.
So imagine now putting a being in a situation where they must engage, in the weaponry of the dark side. So I want to look at the question, though, of the light in this, and the fairies and the use of light. And they're saying, well, it's all light. We just had to transform it into weaponry and things that looked like weaponry, so that the other beings would understand that there was a confrontation. So I'm just going to pause there. I mean, it just feels like there's this history coming through.
Yeah, that's such a powerful reframe to look at it that way, through presenting what needs to be presented to the beings that we're communicating with. So,
and
the way that they can take it.
Right. And it just kind of drains them, though. It drains them to have to interact with the light, use the light in that way. It kind of dims the light a little bit, if you will. And that's when they become really vulnerable, So then they can be like, what? So it was just like, they think that warfare on Earth is like all this weaponry and blah-de-da. They should see, go consult Kali. All right, go consult her. Take a look at all of those tools. All right. Imagine the 10th dimension and beyond with this type of thing going on all the time. All right, Kali, Durga. Luckily, these ladies are, on your side. They're trying to help out. Clean up this mess from their angle. All right. This is about the warrior female.
Yeah. and wielding that weapon of light. That is really powerful. Thank you so much for sharing that. We have questions coming in that I will move over to. If we're ready for that, looks like Kathy Lewandowski asks, how can we help in our particular areas to honor you and bring forth their energy? Honor, I believe she means the fairy realm and the she beings.
Yeah. We'll start by honoring literally the biological world, the nature world. It really is that simple. It's that simple. Just saying hello to it, greeting it like a friend. Every time you're going by it, walking by a tree or plant, that will keep you busy on a walk, but you wouldn't think about walking past a human being and, not saying hello or so. I mean, many of you will, but I mean, it's that type of thing. And that goes for the rock faces, the crystals, everything in the material natural world is sacred. And at least if you go out and at least once a day, make a conscious honoring of something, whether it's through a nod, a hand to the ground, touching it, stroking it, thanking it, pouring an offering of milk, honey, water, or wine, or tobacco pinch or cornmeal, just any way of acknowledging the plants that are right around your house is a good way of doing this. And I want to understand more the relationship of the plants to these fairies, and these light beings and so forth. And they're like, well, as you in a sense have already seen, but now you're seeing it more, that's just a 3-dimensional manifestation of them. If you pull back in, they're really, a light body kind of thing. And that's just how they, each one has chosen to live a life on planet Earth in that form. They find it very interesting, just like humans find it interesting to have different types of lives. So the fairy energy is all about wow, this time we're going to be a rhododendron, and oh, this time we're going to be a peace plant, or, they have their own names. And then they kind of dwell, and they're also in service to the earth plane when they do that, because they're literally, it's everything everyone said, providing oxygen and composting, and also providing beauty. So this is one way that this mesh of the fairy works in the 3-dimensional realm, is through these natural plants and things. And you're sequestering fairies as the plants, but then there's, the animal spirits, and there's, the ones we call the masters. And, it's all like a whole kind of menagerie going on out there. Okay. I'll just wait for the next question.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for that. And what an easy, inspiring, and fun way to connect in just your regular walks through the neighborhood. I love that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we have, let's see here, Sheila Montalvo, hello from Puerto Rico. Hello. Let's see, Savannah Hop to It asks, how can Lady Cannabis support our relating and co-creating with the Fae and dragons?
Oh yeah, well, here's an example in action. I mean, I took her into my body today, and we're going to be teaching about her and how to use her first time or more properly. And so, it's of the spirit, by the spirit, and for the spirit, right? That's the whole, when you look at Lady Cannabis from that perspective, that's what we're talking about. That it is a plant way of getting any kind of information about anything, about any realm, about the plant itself, about the plant's relationship to plants, about plants' relationship to, the infinite kind of thing. And so it opens doors, right? It opens doors of wonderment, of answers, of traversing, of travels. where you can find all the information you need. You know, pieces will be coming through today. They're coming through, but you and us and we collectively with a group priestess intention say we're doing a cannabis ceremony to connect with these beings or whatever it is that we're connecting with. And a group resonance field happens also. And so, you know, this is a way of heightening and amplifying and quickening who you are within and these abilities within yourself so that you can become the cannabinoid.
Wow.
All right. You can become the plant. You see, it's about shape shifting into these plants and so forth. Shape shifting in and out. And when you have the plant in you, you can begin to shape shift into that plant. You know, Marguerite, she doesn't know if she wants to start looking like this plant. Didn't we already talk about this? Look, the hands, they kind of. So, you know, like, you know, just, okay, I'm going to just go in now and think about merging more with Lady Cannabis as a fae. And, you know, she likes being in human bodies. I mean, let's face it. It's not just the humans who like her. She likes being in the human bodies because it gives her a level of expression that she doesn't have, you know, blowing in the winds on the plants. All right. She wanted something more for herself. And she said, look, I'm going to make sure that I go in there. I'm somebody, I'll be saying hello, hello until somebody gets, you know, the attention. And then I'm going to instruct them how to, you know, start using it. And so I can come in and out of people. All right. So the cannabis doesn't think it's so bad, you know, that everyone's getting like, I get a little nervous on her behalf. Okay, so this is the playful thing about them. You know, I had a whole thing of being nervous about cannabis, blah, da 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 da, sacredness, blah. And she's like, well, you know, kind of lighten up also a little bit around that because, you know, she's a player. She's a player. She likes to play. She likes to play with the humans. Now, I never knew that. I never saw that before today. And I really took her in and I was like, wow, okay. You know, and also I was kind of wondering because I had this interview with Cliff Dunning and he was like, all, you know, cannabis, sex, orgasms. And I'm like, what are you talking about? You know, like when I'm in an oracle state, I'm like, from the neck up. And he's like, come into the body, welcome. And she's saying, come into the body, welcome. Like the more you, because, you know, I stop with cannabis here. All right. You can pull her into your heart. You can pull her into your womb. You can pull her into your feet. So if I do that, then all of a sudden my womb goes like, wow, I'm an aphrodisiac.
Wow.
Hilarious. Okay. You just saw an example of that here. You know, they are funny. You know, they do. They actually like to play with us a lot more than we think. Yes, the warfare was horrendous and everything, but they have that whole opposite side. You know, somebody needs to get the message to that Galadriel in Lord of the Rings. All right. She's too dour. There's nothing happy about her. She needs the other half, which is to laugh her head off at everything that's going on every time somebody gets blown up. All right. Wow. Look at that use of light. That got me, you know, with the blood hanging out and everything. Wow. That was so creative. All right. We honor the beings that are associated with gore and, you know, all of that, how matter gets transformed back into energy. There's amazing ways, you know, that these beings and human beings are doing with this. Now, we recommend, however, trying to be like a tree, you know, just do that for a day and you'll see how difficult it really is, but it will teach you a lot. And this is what like Native Americans would do when they'd go out and for 3 hours, they'd have to be like the tree. Okay, these are some of the teachings that may or may not be around. But you see, when you start with the Fae, then you start getting in with the Native Americans more because they had a much more total relationship with them.
Yeah, can you talk to us more about being the tree? What is that?
Alrighty. So, you know, you go, you look at a tree, ideally in person, you be with it, and then you become it. You merge.
Wow.
And you try to see how long you can merge with that tree, up to 3 hours. And then the tree feels you, but you feel the tree. And you begin to learn by being the tree. Like you'll get information, especially if you're using cannabis while you're doing it. All right. Just a suggestion. Okay.
Wow, beautiful. Okay, and perfect timing. We have a comment here from Cosmic Child 1111. I talk to the trees and plants and animals as I walk outside. I touch the boughs of the trees and I talk to and say thank you for the healing they bring me. They will talk to you too. It's a trip.
Yeah.
Exactly
Yeah.
what she
You're one
said.
of the, well, you have very close memories of this. You're very fairy-like. You have fairy energy. You are, have a higher proportion of fairy. Those who have the higher proportion of fairy DNA within them, because there was a merging that happened with the humans, or let's say the humans were somehow born out of them, perhaps. Anyway, those who have, but then with all the other interferences, there's different percentages of what we are. Those who have a higher percentage, like this woman speaking, have more of the facility, you see, to be able to do that. If you can't do it, just imagine. They're like, imagination is good enough. That is the bumper sticker of the fairies, by the way, in the little, Horton Hears the Hoot cars that they're going around in. All right. What did we just say? Imagination is enough. They'll give you credit, even if you cannot see them as a light body being and communicate with them. Just imagine that you are. It's good enough because it's going to come into your minds anyway. That's how they deal with dense people. Imagination. That's how they deal with dense people who don't have their oracle open and cannot see the spirit of this plant right here. Imagination.
Beautiful. Imagination as a training ground for intuition. Absolutely.
That's right. It's the doorway. Wow. Okay. Because in a way, it's one and the same. So it's like, what do you really want to co-create when you're up in that imagination? Okay.
Yeah. And can you talk to us more about preparing to get into that, to be in that level of manifestation?
Yeah. Well, doing shape shifting with the plants will help. Using sacred medicines will help. Going into meditations and activating your light body and inhabiting your light body and having it inhabit you will help. You can start right there, for example, to keep stimulating your light body open, awake, like a flame that just, white flame that goes larger and larger. Did I answer the question?
Yes, absolutely. Okay, and we have some more comments and questions coming in, so I'll pop over to those here. Don Del Vecchio says, I have a long-standing energy in my soul related to this warrior fairy or warrior priestess, necessity, patterning, and desire for healing. Do you want to speak to that at all?
Oh, yeah, Don. Yeah, like you've been in combat in many different ways and quite a few lives on planet Earth, But in this life, yeah, you really wanted to have that womb structure to be teaching from the sacred feminine. So I'm giving you a personal reading here, but so, that warrior thing really well, and you're doing a really good job of integrating your heart, and that's the key. So there's a lot of medicine in what you're doing that's very, very helpful. And this might be, you and Marguerite, you need to do a cannabis session to decide what you're going to teach about, all right? Why are you sitting there with your mind thinking? It's hilarious, all right? That everybody was cracking up. watching the two of you. What should we teach? What should we teach? Hello! Use your tools. We're slapping you upside the head. All right, that's a message for you, Dawn and Marguerite. All right, you two Italian stallions, you. All right, go ahead.
Perfect. I love it. All right. Athena Sai is here. Hello, hello. She asks, Hathor has been showing me bits of her relations to the Fae. Do you have any insight on Goddess Hathor, dragon, and Fae lineages?
Oh, wow. Well, I mean, the first thing that's coming up, Athena, is for you to write a novel about this. So that you'll be getting the information through your imagination, and then you're writing it down, and then everyone will have it, So it'd be a lot to go into right here, but let's see if there's a little tidbit that wants to come through. Well, so the Hathors, the Fae, and the dragons, they are three astounding types of beings. Like if you just really tap into their uniqueness of each of them and how Creator has divided itself into these types of manifestations. Talk about creation, right? That's creation right there.
Absolutely. Okay. And then being able to weave the connections between all of these manifestations.
That's right. Level. And weave the connections, so it's like, well, let's just look at the Hathors and the dragons. What I get is peaceful coexistence, because they're all so big, Yeah. It's like the Hathors are more, how I'm seeing this, more like columns, like massive, humongous columns with their Hathor heads. That they're column energies that come onto the earth. The dragons are more wavy energy, and then the fairies are light, wispy energy. So the common denominator is, well, love, and anything that is not of that common denominator is in opposition to. It's like there's the combat with those beings, right? Those who are not in love, because this is like a diversity. Talk about diversity. Holy cow. How would any of them get along if it weren't for the elixir of love flowing through them? And so that's what unites them. And then they are joined in their mission of care for the earth, because the Hathors, they could be somewhere else, all right, quite frankly. And they bother to come on in here. The dragons, this is, major domain for them, major guardians, and the Fae, for the life to be able to exist on the planet, all right? They're like, yeah, look at that. Like for the life to be able to exist, it has to have those fairy grids. Without that, you don't have it. You have other grids. Yes, you have rocks. You have, you could become like the moon. All right. Try that one out. The earth is like the Goldilocks planet. Speaking of the dwarves, all right, let's take a look. All right. Earth is the Goldilocks planet. All right. Things revolve around Earth. Mercury, Mars, they're too hot, they're too cold, they're too barren, they're too this, they're too that. The farther out you go, it's blue ice over there. So here, everything was perfect for this grid to come on. Not every planet can have that grid. So that's really interesting. So like Earth is this, is this Eden? It's Eden. All right, we have to get this straight. Earth is Eden. It contains the codes of everything that exists in genetic history. Barbara Marciniak was right about that. Okay? And the beings, you know, they're trying to like weave around with that genetic code. They're playing a lot of games with that genetic code. So that's a whole, you know, other story. What is the question again? Where are we?
Yeah, it was. I think we covered that.
It.
If we
All
had,
right, there's enough to go on. All right.
yeah.
Is that your question? We lost track. Okay.
Okay. So, Colleen Russell, and I wonder if you have anything to expand on here. Asks, when you speak of cannabis, is it the same as marijuana? And what my question would be is it important to have a distinction there in the terminology that we use?
Right. Well, marijuana and cannabis are the same thing, but then there's something like hemp, you know, which is like a relative or something. And then the way they're hybriding cannabis herself, it's like now she's got, you know, many relatives in a sense. Okay. But let's get back to the question. Courtney, can you give that again?
Yeah, the question was, when you speak of this cannabis, is it the same as marijuana? So the question would
naming.
be, my question, I guess, would be, is there a way that the naming conventions, like when we refer to Lady Cannabis, is there a preference there? Is there, I know Connie has brought in the information before that she prefers to be referred to as Lady Cannabis.
Right.
I would also wonder if there's any different information that we can use about different ways to use the various forms.
Okay. The naming and the form. So the naming, well, when you work with cannabis, you can ask her what her pet name is for you. She'll have a pet name that only you know, and that's your name for cannabis, okay? And that relates to what came through a few months ago, where the name of cannabis is the name of God, because it's all the syllables and vowels ever possible coming together in a sound that is unhearable and, you know, whatever. So let cannabis give you her pet name, and that's your secret code with her, and it should not be shared with anyone. Okay? And then that's how you develop your relationship and take the power with what we are calling Lady Cannabis, or I like to call it Asterion from the ancient times in Greece. I think that the plant they were describing, that they called Asterion, I think it was cannabis. I found a trail of that in the ancient writings. So Asterion, Aster meant star, right? So it would take us to the star realms, which, you know, it's all different and all the same, right? The fairy realms, the star realms, the angelic realms, the, you know, the this, the that, and the other thing. Anything of the light is related. Anything of the dark is related. Wow. And so there have been infiltrations of the dark into the light and penetrations of the light into the dark. And so they're trying to influence one another. That's a really big conundrum.
That's huge.
You know, smoke some pot and then start to think about that, all right? It'll blow your mind. Okay, so that's where I am with that one.
I love that concept of taking the power back in that relationship, and
so don't worry
defining
about
it for
what
ourselves.
Else is calling it. Get your own name. You know, and then whatever, you can use whatever name, but underneath your breath, you're saying to yourself, haha. You know.
I love that. That's so beautiful. Okay. Thank you for that question, Colleen.
How about if you have a station identification while I take a brief.
Absolutely. Okay. So just to give you all a little bit of background on what's going on with Seven Sisters Mystery School, while Marguerite takes a brief bio break here. We are, if you're inspired by what's coming through Marguerite here, we actually have a special on our Priestess of the Dove Oracle training at the moment. Through this weekend, we are offering a specially priced session plus 30% off our Priestess of the Dove Oracle training. And that will give you a connection with that inner knowing and will really give you some tools about how to bring that inner oracle through. And then with the private mentoring session with Marguerite, she will be able to work with you about what your personal oracle journey looks like and get some more information for you on that. That you can check that out on our page, sevensistersmysteryschool.com. It's right there at the top. We also have our monthly Mary and Magdalene Empowerment Circle. We just finished one up, actually April 20th this month. That's still up for a few more days if you want to register to check the replay on that. And we met around the theme of calming emotions and regulating the nervous system. It was a really powerful experience that's just $27 a month to get in on that. And it's a really wonderful way to connect with the community in a broader sense as well. Okay, so getting back into some questions here. Looking at Wildwoods, Kimberly, let's see. Saying the druids would like to talk to the trees and give them affirmations. Everything you tell a tree, it believes and it spreads the word. Ooh.
I love that.
Any information about that to add or to expand on? All right.
Yeah, I mean, just do that using your imagination with something positive and just see it going from tree to tree. All of these lore and legends are memes that create a reality around it. So there's a reality now created around that transmission from tree to tree. So tune into it. You might create a different affirmation or piece of information or transmission, and you can do it yourself or you can teach it to others. And it's like we spread these imaginal ideas. And that's how, we not only learn about the fairies, but like we co-create with them, because there's a creative element to your imagination around the fairies. And
and what's coming in even now is I wonder if it's almost an antidote to AI, co-creating with the fairies as an alternative to what's being created artificially.
Yeah, very much so. Let me just take a look at this for a minute. Well, the fairy way is the organic way. It's the way of carbon-based, as we call it, life, the substance of nature, the substance of the natural world. And so help me get back on track. Courtney, just what was I looking at?
We were looking at AI and
right.
How we can.
Oh, right. So it's just a way of, AI is doing its thing, but you can't be a part of that. You'll be eaten up by it unless you become it. So you have to decide whether you want to become it so that you can have your reality in the AI, or whether you want to be in the organic world. We would have a suggestion. However, we don't like to interfere with free will. Okay, so this is serious. Let's look at it here. What's happening is that the AI world is trying to come into the organic world and merge with it so that it can suck the life out of it in a way. And then the bargain that we make is that, okay, we'll have immortal life, but it'll be in the AI realm. Okay. And it's a kind of a static immortality. People are not going to want that. You're going to want this. You'll be praying for the cycles. All right, you'll be praying, my God, let me have a crucifixion scenario. Anything but this. Get me out of here. That's what it's going to be like in AI. Just saying, you know, and people are like, they're doing it because even now we're all merged with the screen. Like, we don't even realize that we are merged with pixels and shit. Okay. So, it's getting the phone now, it's like all measuring your this and your that, and now the earbuds, and there's going to be implants and whatnot and so on. You have to decide whether you want that, you know, as a species, because the more there is of that, the more it takes over, kind of like a cancer, you know what I mean? And there goes organic life. Not to scare anyone.
Right. And then yeah, and it does seem like that's what the fairies are here assisting with, right? In creating an alternative.
Yeah, they're like, look, this is so critical. You know, it's a good darn thing that you had this show today, because you do not realize, most humans, how critical we are to you and how critical this mission of connectivity it is. It's not like, oh, maybe I'll do a fairy course, or, you know, maybe we'll do fairies now, ba-da-da. This should actually be 24/7 for you people. Okay, that's what they're saying to us, that we need to put some attention onto this topic. Nature is, you know, nature is the white liberals' way of understanding the fairies. All right, the EPA, all that. That's as far as those people can go. Now, there's a group of you that have the imagination to make the link between, and then there's some of you who are totally in that world the entire time, communicating, and you are more than half that anyway, all right? You made it into the earth plane, you were beaten up for it, whatever, and so on, but, you know. So, like, what we can tune into our fairy DNA, because we all have some, all of us, all right? And some of us more percentages because they stayed mating with the fairy groups and things like that. And then they didn't have the dissolution. It's almost like, you know, any people, any native people that gets dissoluted into the whole world, right? So all the DNA ends up circulating. So the fairy DNA is circulated. Now, there are some people that do not have any fairy DNA at all. It's true. And those are the lineages of that shall remain unnamed today. But
great.
Okay, so that's
really, really powerful information. Thank you for bringing that through. Okay, getting back to our questions here, there's a couple of comments that I'll read through, and then if you want to go back and comment on them, great, and we can move on here too. Athena says, yes, the trees and even the whales are the living library. Without the old loops, patterns, karmic issues, etc., they create those song lines for humanity to add onto.
Yeah. And it would be good for us to pay attention to those song lines. You know, like that's the power of having an animal totem or spirit. You tune into it, you develop an intimate relationship with it, but you can do it with any animal, really, you know, the whales or the trees, like I was saying before. But pay attention to their wisdom streams, their song lines, their bodies of knowledge, their libraries. You can tune into that and receive the information directly through your imagination. You know, Tolkien used the imagination to create a whole world that was true.
Wow.
All right, he's the master.
Wow.
Okay.
It's really powerful. Okay, and Dawn Del Vecchio says, fantastic insights about bringing Lady Cannabis into the womb. I've been noticing an intense heart and womb activation when I'm in the forest lately.
Blessed be.
Tamisha Best.
Because Dawn, you're connecting with your fairy DNA when you're in the forested areas. So that's another thing. It's go into the beauty places of nature, and especially the places with lots of plants, you will attune to their fairy vibration much more easily. And also that is where it is good to do sacred medicines, in a protected, place of nature, because you're more easily on that vibration of the fairies. Okay, next one.
Tamisha Best says, 2 nights ago, I had a dream where I went into a community where everything smelt like sewage. The people in the village planted trees to mitigate. Synchronicity with this message.
Yeah, because the plants will compost. As a matter of fact, on May 18th, and we're going to tell the Mother Mary Circle that we're moving it to the 19th, May 19th, but it's usually the third Thursday. But this third Thursday of May, on May 18th, on Skodak Island National Park in New York, I'm going to be participating in a Corn Mother ceremony, or at least attending, led by Unshatwa Stoddard. And he had an elaborate dream that Corn Mother gave him a number of years ago that began the creation of this ceremony of healing of trauma and reconciliation for Native Americans and non-Native Americans, especially Eurasian people. Unshatwa, interestingly, is Mohican and like original Puritan. You know what I mean? Like, he's got the two lines. Talk about, it's not even so much confusion, but then it becomes about integration.
Yeah.
Right? So he's a living embodiment of integration. And he received this dream from Corn Mother about planting corn seeds, giving people in the ceremony corn seeds to plant, and then the corn plant was going to take up the toxin and transmute it. So it's the same thing with trees. Interestingly, they're showing me not only do they take stuff from the air and filter it, but they take stuff from the soil and filter it. But there's only so much they can do before they sicken from what they're doing, which is when you'll have things like Dutch elm disease and all this and that. It's like the trees are exhausted in that particular area from having done all the transmutation of poison to soil and air. And now you've got, the EMF frequencies and things like that, which is challenging for the natural world. Very challenging.
Wow, that is really powerful information, and that they are here to help us with that. That the plant realm is here to help us transmute these energies. That's really powerful. Is there anything else they want to share about that? How we can use that in our personal lives and in our communities? How we use that knowledge?
Well, one thing I'm getting is that we need to transmute the EMF frequency, or whatever these frequencies are, so that they're less loud, because they're quite loud for the natural world and the animals. And so, like, having the grief is almost inexplicable when you think of that from that perspective. But so wait, let me just look in, because I really want to look in on that for a second. You can set a light out into your body, your car, your home, your yard, to a light to mitigate these frequencies. And you can at least do it around your homestead, okay, wherever that is, even if it's in an apartment. And that helps. I mean, there's a lot here. Let me just fly up for 1 second higher. Well, the more love you radiate out, the more these energies really dissipate. So an entire human race of people emitting love would dissipate these energies.
Beautiful.
All right, we'll stop there.
Great. Okay, Sheila Montalvo asks, I can feel the inverted energy matrix in my island, and I want to know how this energy is affecting the Fae and how I can work with them to start clearing and healing the land and elements.
Can you read it again?
It's coming up. I can feel the inverted energy matrix in my island, and I want to know how this energy is affecting the Fae and how I can work with them to start clearing and healing the land of the elements and the elements.
Right. Well, the easiest and most pleasant thing, again, is just to begin radiating love as much as you can, you know, as many times as you can, as often. Have a leitmotif of it going in your life. Having, expressing your love for the plants around your house and then everywhere else as you're driving, as you're walking. Expressing love will help like set a net. It helps set a net. So the more, you know, you could be pretty busy on that island of yours. We hope it's small for your sake, but you know, going to every tree and every plant and every, but you can use fairy magic, which is that blanket of stars. You can go, whee, whee. You can do that, and you can set your love into a whole forest. Okay, and you can do, if you're walking with friends, you don't want them to know what you're doing. You can just do it mentally, and you're just like, hi. Isn't that great, Sheila? That's so easy. Not that much to do, except just, you know, get your tuchus out in nature every once in a while. Okay, you know, but like that's the fairies' like playful way of saying, hey, use your magic to protect us.
It's not that hard. Just get out here.
Yeah. Just come up with your own thought forms and ideas. Maybe it's not a blanket of diamond light. It's something else, you know, but it's your way.
That's
and
so
you'll
cool.
and you'll think of other things as well. Something might come naturally where it's like, oh, actually you're meeting with people talking about the topic, but it won't feel like I gotta go in and, you know, to this commission and tell them what for and blah, blah, blah. No, it's like the fairy way is just you start with love and then whee, you let yourself be inspired with ideas and things like that bring pleasure as a means of solving this dilemma.
Wow.
Okay.
Perfect. Okay. Sally says, offers to group your plants in threes, growing your medicinal herbs, put the seeds in your mouth, then put in the soil. The plant will analyze your DNA and grow to treat your unique medicinal needs.
Wow. Makes so much sense. That's why you can also put your womb blood in there too with seeds. Now that's powerful. And that's what the native women would do. They'd put womb blood with the seeds, and then they were giving their DNA for the medicine for the people, all the mothers. Okay. That is what we call cooperation with the plant world. That's the point of giving your womb blood to seeds that are growing. As you said, it gives them your imprint and your beauty and powers, and it allows them to grow food and stuff that suits your people in particular. You know, the corn, the beans, the rice, like that was all encoded for the particular people. That's why monoculture and the way the farming is, it's devoid because it doesn't have the uterine blood of your mothers in it. Wow. Among many other issues. Wow. Okay. All right. Next question.
Wonderful. Thank you for sharing that, Sally, and for expanding on that. Okay, let's see here. We have Ahandra says, greetings from the gorgeous, juicy greenery and amazing overflowing color spaces right now in Greece. Oh, beautiful. That sounds fantastic, especially the way you just described it. Yes, please.
Oh my gosh.
Merging with nature and oracle and womb practices. A new her dragon attached. Why in Greece?
Oh, a new her dragon attached to her?
That's what it sounds like.
Okay. Well, Delphic Oracle comes to mind. Hello. They're just saying hello to you. That Delphic Oracle was governed by a dragon. A dragon would come into her. Dracaina. Delphine. She dragon. You're meeting your karma, Missy. So go forth and prosper and join our Sacred Feminine Plant Medicine Academy whenever. You don't even have to get back.
Wow. Beautiful.
Yeah, that is an oracle pal for you. Go deeply.
Beautiful.
Develop a relationship. Okay, blessed be. Wow. Woohoo.
Wonderful. Very exciting information coming through. Let's see. Michael, hello from Oakland. Blessings to you for this. I'm wondering about connecting to Lady Cannabis without taking her into my body, specifically on divining my relationship with other plant allies.
Yeah. Okay. So it sounds like two questions. Can you?
Yeah. Yeah. Primarily wondering about connecting to Lady Cannabis without taking her into the body.
Yeah.
We'll start with that one.
Okay. Yes, absolutely. Oppenheimer said, "I am become death." All right, that was for those people, the dark side. But you can say, "I am become Asterion." All right, I am become it. I am it. Use your imagination. That's what we've been talking about here. To let her into your body, then you can begin to make it better. All right, so you got to let it in. Let it in. Let your imagination have you become the plant, a spirit. Connect with whatever chemicals are in there that are the receptors, and just start becoming Lady Cannabis. You're going to be green. All right, just watch it. If you go too far, don't go too far. All right, you're a handsome boy. Don't spoil it. Okay.
Beautiful. And he's asking specifically on divining his relationship with other plant allies. Is there?
Oh, yeah. Well, I'm going to be doing that when we're launching this Sacred Feminine Plant Medicine Academy. I have a free call, which is the 10 steps to developing or cultivating a sacred relationship with plant medicine. And one is just tuning in to which plant. Okay. So you've got a great imagination and you've got good intuition. You've got to give yourself more credit for that and just tune in. What plant is calling you? What plant is beckoning? Either the name or the idea of it, or you saw an image or somebody is doing it and you're like, that sounds yeah. Just go with that sounds what's yeah. You don't even need to bring the I Ching into it. All right. What does the I Ching have to do with what you already know inside your body? Okay.
Perfect. I love it. Okay. Let's see. I have been seeing, let's see. Athena says, I have been seeing AI moving into the inner earth realms, been called to assist in clearing back to organic grids, true regenerative systems.
Yeah. A lot of you are doing that. And Indigo Angel is doing a lot of massive grid work here, there. And she's trying to get as many dimensions as she can. So yes, the more you do any kind of grid work with intention and love, because there's a lot of places on the planet, that's a lot of square acreage to cover. It needs a lot of you to consciously work. Yes, you can cast a global net, but that it gets stronger and stronger the more you get specific as to these locations that you're clearing or bringing love to. Think about it as bringing love to those places. And let Calgon do the rest. All right. Don't worry yourself so much. All right. Indigo Angel, she's a warrior. This is what she was made for. She does it, and anybody who wants to go with her. Now, those of you who are not made for that, just use the love elements. Your thoughts about love, bringing love to that bridge, bringing love to the water that flows under it, holding hands in a nice little circle with the ladies. Kumbaya, but kumbaya works, all right?
Yeah.
Just put it in. The simplest thing you do and think of, you can do it. Now, Athena, you have a bigger job too. You're one of the leaders of this thing, all right? The leaders have a big job, and other people can take it a little more easy and use the love elements. Okay.
Beautiful. I love that distinction of that you can contribute without it being your whole calling, your whole mission here.
A couple of minutes a day. There's an infinite variety of things you could do. Think about, send blessings to, but it boggles the mind. You could get overwhelmed. I mean, so just pick one, especially if you're already a busy person. Okay.
Beautiful. Okay, so getting into, I know we were going to talk to the leprechauns a little bit here.
Yes, let's do. And we're going to go for 20 more minutes on
Great.
this. And then at the end, we'll talk about the Sacred Plant Medicine Academy, because I'm passionate about this. A switch flipped for me, and I've been able to be more public with cannabis. I think in my work with her, I've advanced. All right. I've made some initiations and did some clearings that were needed for me to be able to work publicly with women and all people in this way, for example, and then in a teaching role and in a ceremonial role. So that I am now very excited about plant medicine. I had to go through the phase of also becoming the oracle without the medicine, just so that you can do it.
Mm-hmm.
And teaching that. And now it's really about marrying, being the oracle with being the priestess and the plant medicine woman. Okay. So that's what I'm moving into as a means of helping us all amplify our connection with also the Fae. When we start using these 3 plants we're going to be working with in the class: Blue Lotus, Cacao, and Cannabis, Lady Cannabis. All right. So anyway, bring me back, Courtney. Bring me back. Whatever.
Yeah. Okay. So we're gonna check in with the leprechauns.
Oh yeah, the leprechauns. Okay.
Yeah. So I'm wondering if the leprechauns can help us reframe our relationship with abundance. Work with them around what we perceive to maybe be blocks around abundance.
Oh, goody. Goody gumdrops.
Come on in.
Oh, the leprechauns. And the Irish say it in a way, leprechaun. It's kind of like, how are you saying that? It almost becomes unpronounceable for an American, which is just as well, because Americans shouldn't be desecrating the name of the leprechauns, right? They're a little rough around the edges, the Americans, all right? They had time in Europe to refine things a little. So, okay, the leprechauns, they are, okay, let me tune in. Well, again, they're saying, look, you're going to have to brush off a lot of the imagery that's been put on us to make us look absolutely ridiculous. And I mean, come on. We are the key to your abundance. What has happened? We've been made non-existent and ridiculous for anyone who might dare to think that we're alive. So the leprechaun, so we're being invited now to just tune into authentic, true leprechaun energy. I'm just inviting us all. Do it along with me, okay? Authentic, true leprechaun energy. Well, there's a lot of big wizardry around them, because it's like pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. Holy cow. How did they turn light into physical 3-dimensional gold?
That's what we call alchemy, all right? You think you people are all hot and mighty when you look at working with lead, all right? You can't even get it straight with that. Think about the leprechauns turning all of the rainbow into three-dimensional gold, all right, which is a very high substance. Okay, it's a sought-after substance all over the universe for its many, many properties. And that's why it's become the currency, or the standard, or the so-called standard, even though, it gets stolen and this and that, and people say what's gold and what isn't gold. But so the leprechauns are all about what a healthy economy would look like, what a Lemurian economy would look like.
Wow.
And eco is in economy. So it has to be ecologically. It has to, right? You have to have eco-logic, eco-logic, earth logic, in order to do it right. So there's, of course, whole entire teachings that could come out of this, but this is just a little hint on leprechaun manifestation. You want to learn how to manifest? Hang out with the leprechauns for a while. They'll show you. I mean, they are the masters of manifestation, and it really is no joke. And just take out that corncob pipe and that ridiculous hat and the green rubber shoes, boingy, that they start looking like, and really connect with a leprechaun energy. They've made the most exalted thing look the most ridiculous. And yet these energies, again, are here to help us, The alchemists lost their way when they came disconnected from the leprechauns, because they were like all about, they're like all about metals, and they forgot organic life, and they forgot the light, not all of them, but a lot of them, the baser ones. So let me just take this one step further about like practicalities of what does this mean, like in our lives. How do we, well, if you haven't noticed, money is an illusion anyway. Okay. And what they're showing me is like, the more you get digital, the more everybody realizes it's an illusion. Why are we spending time passing the buck on the pixelated screen that seems ridiculous? Why don't we cut out the middleman? So it's like, it's weird, and that the digitization of money means when they went from coinage to dollars, that was kind of a problem, because at least the coins were connected with the earth, but the dollar, I don't know, it's kind of a weird. Now it's getting all digital. The more abstract we get, the more you realize that money is an illusory agreement anyway, And yes, though, what's of value? Your house, your food, your social well-being, your emotional well-being, your health, and all that. But it's like we need to like rewind and retrace the steps of an economy, of what a healthy economy is going to be. And that's what the leprechauns need to be on any council that's about this, whether it's earthbound or your personal. If you want to manifest, call them in. And your World Economic Forum would be a different story if they started calling in the leprechauns, all right? The whole thing would be cleaned up like Jesus with the money lenders, all right? Forget about it. So, Jesus with the money lenders, you know what I mean? Jesus was overturning the tables. He wasn't like trying to be violent, is what I'm getting. He was overturning the tables. He was trying to show you there's another way, there's another way. And that hits us all very, very personally, like with our jobs. And it's like we get into this frozen fear, like, will I have enough money, or can I spend that money? And it really, the more you get into the alchemical game of manifestation with with the leprechauns in particular, the more you will govern reality to have what you want at any given time. And all will be in balance because there will be no excess. You know what excess is? Open Marguerite's closet. All right. Okay. You know, that girl, she would have some changing to make if she went in with the leprechaun way. Everybody would. That's the thing. So, but the thing is that, like, just start calling it faintly, you know, like, leprechaun, don't please give me the whole thing. I don't want to be living in the woods right now. But, like, faintly, could you just help me move my growing edge to be able to get in more alignment with spirit-led manifestation, right? And needs and what I need. Everybody's all hoarding and everything because of all the wars and the deprivations and things that have gone on and memories we have. And we're like, holy crap, I better have enough, you know, cans of salmon downstairs from 2020. Whatever. So, okay. So we'll just pause there.
Wow. Wow. Yeah. That is really wonderful. And what a wonderful reframe to have, and what a great resource to have on our side.
Yeah. Yeah, they really are. They're like, you should have a class on the leprechauns. So, Courtney, write it down. All right. She gets some marching orders from these people. All right. So, okay.
Wow, really wonderful. Thank you to Wildwoods Kimberly for a generous super chat donation there. Thank you so much. She says thank you for everything that you're sharing.
The leprechauns, they're radiating already. No sooner than we stop talking, and then what happens? Ka-ching! Okay. All right.
Beautiful. Perfect timing.
Thank you so much.
All right. And yes, so still welcoming all of your questions and comments here. And wondering, let's see, how are the fairies and subtle beings affected by the different planetary events like eclipses, retrogrades, that type of thing?
Oh my God. They're like, oh, look. They like sit on the hill, you know, waiting for the moment. They're like, it's so interesting. That's kind of how they are. This is like looking at them at their playful side. They're like, oh, you know, we're going to have an effect of Saturn and Pluto conjuncting. Oh, heavens me, what could it be? How is it going to manifest this time? You know, what co-creation of the earth is going to happen? You know, and so they're like, they just have wonder with everything. You know, there's no bad planets for them, and
no bad planets. There's another bumper sticker.
No bad pizza. There's no bad planets. All right. How can you go wrong with dough, tomato sauce, and some cheese? All right. Same thing. There's no bad planets, even though they're all trying to get fairy onto them. All right. Some of them had it, lost it. They made bad choices. All right. They did. They lost their rights to the fairy grid. Even more than destroying it, they lost their rights. They lost their permission. So now Earth is in the teeter-totter. Is it going to retain its permission to have organic life? This is a matter of all of the humans becoming awake who are major guardians of this Earth. You forget about that. All right? The she may be the guardians of us, but we're the guardians of the earth more directly. The Bible was right in that, okay? We'll give them that point. Ding. We are guardians, but not in the way, not controllers. We're guardians, and we forgot. We forgot what the heck guardianship meant. Responsibility. Because we have the powers that we do, we could kill at a whim. We could do this, we could do that. We can also protect. It's like the male element. It can kill or it can protect, right? We humans are like that on the planet. We need to return to our stewardship of the earth. That is what the fairies can tell us. The she show us how they're the stewards of us. And then we become the stewards of the earth. and we are kind of messing up right now, but there are many of us who are like Sheila in the island, wherever she is, and all of us that can bring love, and we can like float this ship back up. All right. And so just get busy with your loving kindness every day. You know, they're really all about love. They're connected to, how are they connected to Mother Mary and Jesus? They're connected to through the heart, right? Okay, we'll pause there. Did that answer the question?
Absolutely. Yeah, really wonderful information. And thank you to Asha for another wonderful super chat donation
Wow.
there.
Ding, ding, ding. Wow. I don't think we ever had two. Thank you so
That
much.
is so exciting. Thank you so much. Yeah, so let's see. It looks like we are about at the end of our questions at this point. So
let me tune in, or if you have any, Courtney, you let me know.
Yeah, no, let's go ahead, and I have a couple more here, but I'd like to hear from.
Okay. And we're also just thanking Connie for holding space and keeping us protected space and so forth as well. Connie Viveros. We're going to leave a few minutes just to talk about the Plant Medicine Academy also, but let me just tune in now. Well, we're just being invited to connect in through our hearts to these beings and their various varied multiplicity of races. Really, there's quite a diversity of them. We tune in with their hearts through our love vibration, and we see the fairy grid, the fairy mesh around the planet becoming whole. We just send our love through that grid and just see all the holes just filling up, just, you know, the mesh joining back together. And they're like, wow, the more you can envision this remeshing of the fairy grid, the more it happens. I believe, I believe, I believe. Beautiful. So let's just stay with that for a moment. I believe. I believe. Belief, magic, manifestation, the fairies, they're all connected. It's all about the playing with the illusion through imagery, images, energy. When you're working with imagination, you're working beyond fifth dimension. I never understood that. You're working at a level that's beyond fifth dimension, and it's right accessible to you now. You don't even have to be a world famous oracle. You just have to imagine something. Now, we imagine things all day long, some positive, most negative, right? Shift your imagining, overturn that table and shift your imagining to, instead of creating a worry scenario and how you're going to protect yourself, shift to imagining the scenario that you want and how wonderful it will feel. And you don't have to use those negative imaginings as protection anymore. Okay. Just put up your protection shield in the day, and then you can keep focusing on the positive that you want to manifest. Okay. And there's just been very, very good advice that's been given all across the world over the past few decades about manifestation, and just keep playing with it and create your own ideas and tools and understandings. And all right, so that's all about fairy. Let's take a few minutes about how we can bring fairy into our lives more through this Sacred Feminine Plant Medicine Academy. And let me just let it rip. I mean, I already started, and there might be some things for you, Courtney, but you know, I'm excited about this because these plants that we're working with, Blue Lotus, cacao, and Lady Cannabis, are the more gentle plants in terms of they're not harsh initiations for the most part. Okay. And they're easier entrees, and they're easier to use for oracle purposes when you want to direct your mind in with the influence of the plant. Okay. So in this 7-session series from the end of May through the end of July, we have 3 teaching modules, 4, an introductory, and then 1 on each of the plants. Blue Lady Lotus, I call her, is going to be taught by Helen Avitabile, and one of our level 4 Dove Oracle priestesses from Seven Sisters Mystery School, and she happens to have that expertise with that plant. Mama Cacao is going to be taught by Angela de la Agua. Some of you may already know her through her selling of Beloved Cacao, and she's also a Dove Oracle priestess and very much an expert and my teacher for Mama Cacao. And then Cannabis will be co-taught by me and Connie Viveros, who's going to be bringing in a lot of her experience and knowledge about cannabis Lady Cannabis from various perspectives. Connie is our sacred space holder today for these oracles when I work with Lady Cannabis. And so then each module is going to have then a couple of weeks later the ceremony with that plant online in group. And it's good because the online, as weird as it seems, it does provide a protection for each person. And it prevents us from getting too intense together as like 2 mirrors that go together. So it's a good way to have a ceremony, and we're going to be figuring out what the structures are for these ceremonies, 3 of them online. Again, we're going to open up the registration for this on May 7th, Sunday, May 7th. Newsletter will have that first announcement. So if you're not on our newsletter, please go to sevensistersmysteryschool.com, and on the sidebar, you can see how to sign up. Or if you order up any of our free things, there's a click box where you can keep it clicked to receive that. Anything else that we want to say about this? Oh, it's going to be like a prerequisite, because I'm going to be developing a series of offerings for people. One-on-one Lady Cannabis offering, mentoring. I already have a cacao one that will be amplified, mentoring with people with cacao in your own personal use and your use of it in ceremony with others. So I'm going to have a one-on-one on cannabis with that work. I have in mind us having quarterly online ceremonies with those who've been initiated into the process, and then a yearly in-person cannabis ceremony where we really do some deep dive work as co-oracles. So this Sacred Medicine, Plant Medicine, Sacred Feminine Plant Medicine Academy is a step 1 into this, and a good one. If you decide that's where you're parking and going in different directions, fantastic. So yeah, it'll all be online. You can watch and replay. You don't even have to ingest the plants, as Michael was suggesting, in order to do the ceremonies. In fact, you can test and tease yourself with how much of this plant vibration can I tune into without doing any of it. Okay, that's another high vibrational aspect of it. Anything else, Courtney, that we should?
Yeah, Carlos is asking, how does one procure the 3 plants and supplies for the new class?
Oh, perfect. We will guide you carefully. Helen has an excellent recommendation for sources and how to create the tincture. Angela sells her own Beloved Cacao, so that's one option. There's another for people in Europe. And for the cannabis, we will just guide you to go to your local dispensary and talk to the bud grower there as to what you're looking for. Okay. And if you can't get it, fly or drive to a state that's legal and get it and do the ceremony there. All right.
Beautiful. Okay. And then I just wanted to mention, this is the last weekend for our level 1 Priestess of the Dove Oracle training promotion that we have going on right now. 30% off that course, which is a great way to open that oracular space ahead of this, the Plant Medicine Academy.
Yeah.
that's 30% off the course. And if you get that along with a specially priced mentoring session, that special pricing is available through the 30th at midnight. So you'll want to get on that quickly if you want to take advantage. And then definitely sign up for our mailing list, like Marguerite had mentioned. And that's where we'll be announcing the Plant Medicine Academy. So you can register for that next Sunday in that newsletter.
Oh, blessed be. All right. Well, thank you so much, everybody. And thank you to all the beings who were here with us, helping us, informing us, all the Fae, the She, the Tuatha-De-Danann, the Leprechauns, the Fairies, the Pixies, the Brownies, the Elves, the Gnomes, the Dwarves, and many, many that I didn't name. We thank you all for being here, and we ask you to continue to beckon to us and help us to be in co-creation with you for our ecstatic well-being on planet Earth, this Eden, and for the restoration of this Eden realm. All right, everybody. So blessed be. We will say goodbye, and thank you, Courtney and Connie, again.
Thank you so much. All right. We'll see you next time.